In this lecture, we'll set up a UI canvas and a crosshair image that will properly follow our mouse position. In this lecture's resources tab, you'll see another downloadable PNG called Crosshair. Let's go ahead and import that into our project. So in my assets folder, imported assets, I'll save this inside of my GDTV assets folder. You can save it wherever you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and on another monitor, I've got my crosshair image downloaded, and I'll just drag that directly into my GDTV assets. With that selected, we'll just have to change a few inspector settings. Let's change the texture type from default to sprite 2D in UI, and our sprite mode to single. Scroll down, let's go ahead and click apply, and we can properly see our fancy schmancy crosshair PNG image. To get that properly displaying in our game view, let's go ahead and create our first canvas in our hierarchy. Right click, create, and UI canvas. Let's go ahead and find that. There we go. And I'm just going to go ahead and name that my UI canvas, since we'll use this as a screen space overlay for other things like managing score a little bit later on. On our UI canvas parent game object, let's create an image that we can attach our crosshair PNG to. So right click our UI canvas, find UI and image right here at the very top. Great. Let's just go ahead and name this Crosshair. A bit later on in this section, we'll do a bit of a deeper dive on how UI canvas game objects differ from other world space game objects in our scene. Things like how a Rect transform is different than a normal transform and things along those lines. For now, just note that because we're using a screen space overlay canvas, it will always appear at the very top of our game view, kind of overlaying all of our other game objects in a way that you're kind of painting over the very top and appearing at the very front of our camera. We've got an image property. We can just drag our crosshair PNG directly into this sprite field. And we've got our crosshair properly displayed on our game view. Now, you can kind of take reference to roughly the crosshairs as big as the player shape, but if you were to blow it up or on different monitors, it's not really scaling properly. Well, that's a relatively easy fix. On our UI canvas, you can actually just scroll down here. It automatically comes with a canvas scaler component. Let's just change this UI scale mode from constant pixel size to scale with screen size. As long as your reference resolution is using a 16:9 aspect ratio, that'll be just fine. But I'm recording in 1920 by 1080, so I'm just going to change mine to 1920 by 1080. This probably looks a little bit small here, but if we blow that up, I think that looks about right if you were to actually be playing it on a full monitor. The crosshair should be centered directly on my ship. I think that's actually, there we go. It actually just snapped into place as soon as I clicked somewhere on my Unity. If you're having that issue, it's probably just a Unity engine glitch. You could maybe even toggle that from free aspect back to 16:9, and then I've got that snapped in place. I think once we're in play mode, we won't actually have that issue. The next step is to get this crosshair following our mouse position while playing the game. Now, if we take note of our crosshair game object, we actually don't have a transform component like we would at normal game objects in our scene. We've got a Rect transform. So this position is what we're going to actually be modifying. Let's head into our player weapon class to get that set up. Player ship, I'm just going to double click my player weapon to open that up in VS Code. Let's create another serialized field for our crosshair. Like we mentioned, we're not grabbing a transform, we're grabbing a Rect transform position. And we'll just call that crosshair. To update the position of our mouse, we'll want to put something in update to update every single frame. So let's just call that void move crosshair. And let's just make sure we put that in our update function straight off the bat to make sure we don't miss it. All we need is one line of code. We can just move our crosshair dot position, updating the Rect transform of our crosshair, and we can simply just put it to our input dot mouse position. And that's it. Let's head back into Unity and see if that's rigged up correctly. Let's make sure we assign our Rect transform to our player weapon class. So we've got our crosshair here. Let's just go ahead and from our hierarchy, drag our crosshair game object into our crosshair field. Let's go ahead and hit play, make sure that's rigged up correctly. And there you go. We've got our crosshair properly following our mouse. Now, it's a little bit ugly with the Windows crosshair just overlaying the crosshair Rect transform of our image. So let's disable this default cursor. Back into our player weapon class, we just need another single line of code that we can just put directly on start once the game starts. So right above update, I'll just create a void start. And all we need to do is set our Unity engine cursor.visible to false. So cursor.visible equals false. Back into Unity we go. Hitting the play button. You'll notice that right away, your cursor won't actually deactivate, but as soon as you focus on the window itself, in other words, left-clicking anywhere in this box, you'll have your cursor disappear. If you were to actually launch this outside of the Unity engine, after you were to say build and compile your game, your cursor would be disabled by default. That's all I wanted to capture in this lecture. When you're ready to move on, I'll see you in the next one.